What's up, folks? This is Kyle Thomas from Exhorter, and you're watching Aftershocks TV.
All right, so next up, Sun Don't Shine. You know about those guys, Chris?
I do. I've interviewed them when they were, what was their old name?
I am. Yes.
I am. Yeah, I interviewed Kirk and
You did Todd,
Kenny
right?
and
Oh, you did all three of them, huh? Johnny?
and Johnny. Yeah, I
very
interviewed
cool.
all three of the four.
Very cool. Yeah, I interviewed Kenny. Me and Undercover Galaxy, me and John did that a couple years ago. But yeah, so for people that don't know, Sun Don't Shine. Let me bring it up right here. All right, exactly. A couple years ago, they came out with a single or two. They were called I Am.
You know what? I interviewed all four of those guys. Now,
Yeah, you have to say you
I
did, right?
interviewed Big Todd T there too. Yeah,
That's right, you did. Yeah. So yeah, they were I Am, but now they've changed to Sun Don't Shine.
Right.
All right. So they've obviously been doing the podcast interview circuit recently. They got their, I think, first album coming out. They think they put out another song recently.
yeah.
So of course now, you know, with Kenny and Johnny, obviously everyone knows they're from Typo Negative, correct?
Mhm.
Right.
Sure.
So those guys over the years have been asked by a lot of people, including I'm sure you did and I did as well, with Johnny and Kenny, you know, whether or not they would be up to do some sort of, you know, reunion, you know, tribute show for Typo Negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
In you know, celebration of the late great frontman Peter Steele. And I remember talking to both of them, and they both had similar replies where they were saying, yeah, they'd be, you know, they'd possibly be up to doing it, but there was two holdups. One would be they didn't know who would sing because, you know, obviously you can't replace a Peter Steele. Johnny floated the idea that he would think maybe have female singers because he think Peter would get a kick out of that, but it would have to be something along those lines, not someone to come in and mimic him.
Yeah,
you know, that was one of the things. And then the main hang up though would be that they both said, well, they wouldn't do it unless the other living original band member, Josh Silver, the keyboardist, unless he was involved. It had to be the three of them.
Okay.
And so they, you know, obviously, because now the thing about Josh is he's completely out of music. He's been for some, you know, ever since Peter passed. He's like an EMT now. He's a family guy. He wants nothing to do with anything in the music business. Now, and we did hear this as well. Yeah, I don't know if you remember when we talked to a couple years ago, we talked to Henry Font from Piston.
Yeah.
He mentioned because Josh, you know, he was the guy that did their albums, their two albums, and he was saying he approached them again to do it, and Josh said, "Nah, I have no interest in music anymore."
Right.
So, you know, it looks like it's a pipe dream, right, to get this going.
Okay.
But now the interesting thing is Kenny's tune, though, seems to kind of be changing. Like I think what his, you know, what he sees, like he did an interview recently with Toomey, right? And then obviously he asked him, and he said, you know, obviously the sticking point would be Josh, and like he said, he's done with music, and he feels like he's moved on. But he said, you know, you get nostalgic after a time. This is in quotes. You get nostalgic after a time. You know what I mean? So you never know. You can never say never. Maybe down the road, you know, Johnny said that maybe down the road would be something like that. He doesn't know, but Kenny seemed. I think what it is now. I think what it is the guys seem, and as Kenny mentioned, he recognizes that Typo Negative's music has transcended now generations. Again, they are bigger now, probably than they have ever been. Now, so I think they both see that. Obviously, you know, Kenny, especially in Kenny's situation, right? He's the other original member. Him, Peter, and Josh started those are the three original members. I think it was Sal, you know, was the fourth, right? So Johnny's not an original member, right? So I guess his maybe opinion holds a little less weight, but you could see with Kenny, look, this guy's a musician still. I mean, he's not, you know, Johnny's still out there. He is in a million bands, right?
Right.
Kenny isn't. Kenny is probably still living off of the success of Typo. And now he's doing, you know, he's done this, was it Silver Tomb? And now he's doing this, Sun Don't Shine. But, you know, I remember after interviewing him a couple of years ago, right? They did re-release, Typo did re-release the Dead Again, their last album, right? They put it out on vinyl and so forth. And yeah, their branding, dude, is as big as ever. So this guy, I mean, I can't blame him for being like, dude, I want to capitalize on this. Of course you do, right? I mean,
Of course he does, but here's the problem with that. The minute that you do it, you're going to devalue it completely. Completely.
True. Good point.
There's no possible person you can get in there. I mean, there's probably somebody sounds like Peter Steele, but that's the only guy you could get, and he's not going to be accepted either. You know, Peter was an enigma on every level.
Absolutely.
He's honestly a one of a kind. I don't think I've ever heard a vocalist that just sounded like him ever.
Nobody.
And he had an aura that was all his own. Like most people can't name the other Typo guys. They can name Peter, and that's it.
Yeah, he's kind of like a Lemmy. You know, he's that.
Yes.
He has that kind of figure. You know, he was a funny, witty guy. He was very self-deprecating. I mean, it wasn't just the way he looked and sounded. It was, like you said, in every way possible. He was just a very unique character and individual. But it's not. I remember, he's not saying that they're going to get back together and reform. It's more just to do some reunion shows.
Well, see, no, I'm just going to. And this is as a fan, a hardcore fan. I would be 1,000% against it, and I'm
with
why.
you. Yeah, I'm with you. Go ahead.
We're seeing bands do this, and it's embarrassing every time. We saw Nirvana just do this at the Grammys or whatever, and that was a shit show. It was embarrassing as hell. We saw Soundgarden do it, and that was embarrassing as all get out.
I know.
And these are lesser bands as far as having stigma to them than Type O.
Yeah.
These are just kind of, you know, they're big bands, obviously, but there's not a stigma like there is, or a personality like a Type O. You know, another band that did it, and where'd they go? Linkin Park. And I know they're selling big numbers or whatever, but when they first announced with the chick singer, everybody looked in for a minute, and 9 out of every 10 said, nope, I'm out.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Well, and with that was also, look, I mean, they got something completely different, right? And I'm with you. See, that's why, like, when Johnny says, to get some. Listen, I can understand if they want to do just one celebration show, say in New York. Invite friends and have, a couple of females come up, maybe some, Christina from Lacuna Coil or whoever, you know what I mean? It's just some maybe female or other, singers that are in like the gothic-y, doomy genre to sing a song and take turns type of thing. But for fun, but it can never be taken seriously, obviously. You know what I mean? And the thing is, exactly, I think, Josh is probably doing the smart thing, going, dude, it's dead. Like, the thing is done.
Yeah.
And look, you're as big as ever. You don't need to do that, because you said you could kind of taint it then. You could taint, the legacy if you go out and do something like that. Like, I would never, like, for instance, if they did like what Acid Bath is doing, right? Let's do it. Let's just do 10, celebration shows, and do them all over the place. I mean, for one, they would cost a fortune, and it wouldn't be good. Like, I wouldn't want to see it. I don't want to see it
without
no
Peter
interest.
Steele.
No, there'd be no point in it.
It's like going to see Megadeth without Dave Mustaine.
Well, exactly. It's just, again, you celebrate. I know it's a celebration, but it's still like, I just think exactly. But listen, these guys, I give them credit. They got a lot of dignity and integrity, because like he said, came out straight and said, he said, look, it would look like, and it would be a straight up money grab, but that's not what it's about. And so I'm glad that none of them are going to force it so they can get some money. I think it's more just to maybe celebrate and just to have, like I said, it's not going to happen, I don't think. And the difference between, say, like a Typo 2 and like an Acid Bath is, Typo did have a gold record. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a big difference between those bands. But, I mean, they would be just so huge right now. God, if Peter was still alive, can you imagine how big
they'd be but you know what? They might not be, because maybe the fact there is something to that. Once they're gone, they're more popular than when they were here.
Totally.
Because Type O, let's face it, we all love that music, and they couldn't give it away. Those last past October Rust, they could not give a record.
You're right. The records were that was the plateau of their career. Of course, that was the peak, I should say. Everything didn't get as big as that. Even everyone.
But those are great records, though.
Great
mean, if you listen to them, I will put Dead Again up against October Rust every day of the week. It's that kind of good if you listen to it these days. If you listen to it with fresh ears, you're like, whew, how did I miss this?
True. No, well, and you're right. And Typo was that kind of band where they had a very unique sound and it didn't change. You know, I mean, sometimes it was slower and more, doomy and darker and more depressing, but sometimes it was a little more, humorous or so forth, just Peter's, the way he wrote lyrics and so forth. But, yeah, no, it's a good point. You're right. I mean, it could have, you're right. No one was really, Dead Again was one of those albums that not a lot of people, were really, except for the core fans. That was it. I mean, again, but if they would have went away for a while, came back, you're talking about. I think they would be huge right now because of this. I mean, you kidding me? If you see an acid bath being, you can imagine acid bath and Typo negative.
They'd be at the top of a bill on Incarnation or whatever, of course.
Exactly. Yeah.
But not with a chick singer.
I agree. No.
With a chick singer, they're playing at 4:00.
Agreed. Yeah, and unfortunately, and we'll get into more of this a little bit with some other bands that are doing this kind of stuff, because you made a good point before. Every time a band starts doing this, it doesn't end well.
No, never.
I mean, and even even if a replacement sounds like them, it's very rare you're going to get. To me, it's more of the bigger bands. Like the more radio. The Queensryches, right? They did pretty decent with Tyler Torrey since he came in, but again, it's never matched the same level.
Yeah.
And that band's pretty much going downhill as we speak. In terms of there's a lot of who knows what's going on with that band, but it's just interesting when these doing something like that. I give credit to these guys for not going. You know what? We're getting offered all this money. Fuck Josh. Kenny and Johnny. Like we're gonna do it. I'm glad that they're not taking.
I'm glad they're not doing it. I hope they hold their ground. That's
they will.
What I mean. I would almost. What was that? Beaten. No, I can't think of the name of the band. The horse one. The dead horse.
Oh,
not beating a dead horse, but something about a dead horse.
Pale horse. Why can't I take it?
Pale horse named Death.
Named Death. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. I would rather see that come back, which was similar.
Yeah.
But because that gave me my fix of what they used to be without selling it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's probably never going to happen because Sal's not going to work with those.
No, I think he's burnt bridges with both of the bands he's played in.
Burnt them, then pissed on it, then burnt on it again.
Exactly. And then fucked them.
Yeah,
jeez, dude. He just scorched earth. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a character. I know I saw him on Facebook the other day, Facebook Live, and he was like 2 hours in or something, just railing about his sister.
Oh, geez,
like,
he's one of those. We've Well, maybe it was a good thing he did blow us off that one interview that we were supposed to have with him, right?
Right, exactly. Probably still be talking to him.
Probably, yeah.
I had an interest in music always.
It's always kind of been around me some way, shape, or form.
5 minutes sitting on a drum set, man, change your life.
This is the same black guitar that Marty McFly plays in Back to the Future.
I love the feeling I get in front of the freaking full stack here, just the vibration, there's something to it.
I'm lucky because I do have a little bit of a tap into the Fu Manchu lore, into the Nebula lore.
In order to keep things going, you kind of have to start playing the game a little bit, the business game.
Everybody has to get through a day-to-day, and how do you exist and how do you get by?
As far as getting people to commit to bands, it's tough to keep a lot together these days, for sure.
Still sleeping on people's floor, that's still a reality.
Probably also playing with some of the best people I've ever played with. The creative juices don't stop. It just keeps going.
For me, it's just finding a balance of how much time I'm spending with my family versus how much time I'm spending working.
It's this validation that what you're doing actually has merit.
Obviously, we're a little long in the tooth, And we've been doing this for a minute, and now we can kind of do what we want. We don't need a record company. I'll do it myself. I'll do it the way I want to.
Just always be cool. Just be respectful. Those are your people. They're connecting to you on some level, even if they don't look like you.
It's got to happen, you know, or else I'll go crazy. Go crazy one way or another, you know. I might as well, you know, not go crazy if I can play music.
Maybe one day I'll have a Porsche, but you know, until that day, I'll drive a Chevy.
There you go.
All right.